Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary from Malawi. A very good evening to you, Ms. Williams, and thank you so much for taking the time. So you released a statement earlier on saying that you are undertaking the process. What exactly does it mean? Are the wheels already in motion?
Good evening, Tsepiso, and thanks for having me. Indeed, Tsepiso, but I think before we even get to that one, I think we want to use your platform also to reiterate that Shepherd Bushiri and the wife did not use the president of Malawi's entourage plane to leave the country. That I think we want to emphasize, because the narrative has been that the president of Malawi has actually used the visit to smuggle out Bushiri. That is not true. We've ascertained that, and we are confident where we stand that he did not use that route. Secondly, indeed, we have activated the process of repatriating, invoking the extradition processes. Given what he has indicated to us that he is in Malawi, you will appreciate that we have a good relationship with the government of Malawi. We also have an extradition treaty agreement, which we are using to start the process of getting Bushiri to return and face the full might of the law. We are hoping that when she comes here, she will be also able to shed light to the South Africans how she left our country violating the rules of immigration, because we have ascertained that she has not used the legal immigration procedures of leaving the country.
Can I ask this question? Have all ports of entry and exit in this country been examined, or is that a part of the investigation to ensure that they may not have left through any of those?
Tsepiso, what's the reason we couldn't even respond yesterday? We wanted to ascertain that, remember, Bushiri's passport, as part of the condition of the bail, was that she should surrender the passport, and which we can confirm that she did surrender. We have also used yesterday and today to ascertain all our ports of entry, whether a person like that did leave exit our country through the borders, the legal. So I think at this point we can safely say she left our country illegally. And we are hoping that when we arrest and we're able to get Bushiri back into our country to face the full might of the law, she will share with South Africans how she violated our immigration laws, because she will have to share with us how she left our country.
I'm glad you clarified what has raised the eye of many South Africans, the possibility or the suspicions that he may have left with the Malawian president. But questions are being raised about whether this visit by Malawi's president was a normal visit. And I'll tell you why, Ms. Williams. It's been said that we are still under lockdown, that we have not seen any visit by any president during this time. Was this a long-planned visit, or was it something that was hastily planned? Can you clear up that suspicion on whether or not this was used as an opportunity to smuggle out the so-called prophet?
No, I'm glad you are asking that, because I think this visit has long been planned. But I think when we reopened our borders, yes, she was meant to come, because I think if you will follow the program of the president, he has been recently elected and he has been doing these visits to the SADC regions to introduce himself, and I think he has also committed to do that visit. So it's actually one of our first since we reopened, but she has been doing these visits in the region to introduce himself. So it was not, in fact, if you look at the statement that was issued by the presidency, the matter of Bushiri never even came up in the discussions between the two heads of state.
Looking back, do you think it's a matter that should have come up?
Come again?
Do you think it's a matter that should have come up?
I'm actually confirming to you that it never came up.
Yes,
when we were doing the investigation, we have also touched base with the presidency, and we have been assured that this matter never ever came up.
I'm asking Ms. Williams whether it should have come up. And while we're still on that subject, has there been communication now between the presidency in South Africa and the presidency in Malawi, now that the situation has arisen? A fugitive of South African law enforcement agencies is now in Malawi, his home country, which some suggest may cause diplomatic tensions given the way it has played itself out.
I think what the statement is saying is confirming that we have started the process of engaging with the Malawian using the extradition agreement that we have. We have, remember at the beginning we were uncertain until he came out and told us that he's in Malawi, and we have started the process as early as yesterday to make sure that we begin to use the extradition agreements that we have with the Malawian government. And we are hoping that given the good relationship we have with the Malawian government, this process will not be dragged for too long, because he has actually even violated the bail condition. So he's actually a wanted man in this country.
He is a wanted man, and speaking to the Information Minister of Malawi yesterday, he has said they have to conduct their own investigations before they cooperate. So you say you have started the process, so that means you are not yet in a position to answer whether or not they have a quest to cooperate. Am I correct?
We have started the process. I am not in a position to respond with what the Malawian government minister has said. Safe to say that we have good relationship with the Malawian government. We have even cemented it with the recent visit of the Malawian president, who recommitted the working relationship with the two countries. So we have no reason to doubt that they will renege.
Okay. I just have a final question, Ms. Williams. I'm glad you're talking about good relations. There are suggestions that at Waterkloof Air Force Base and at OR Tambo, security officials boarded the plane that was going to transport the president of Malawi to ensure that the Bushiris were not on that plane. Are these reports true?
I missed it. What was the question, Peter?
There were reports that law enforcement agents boarded the plane that was going to transport the president of Malawi back to his country to ensure that the Bushiris were not on that plane, meaning that there was a security check of every individual. Is that true, and is that indicative of those good relations?
Peter, let's be confirmed to you. The only reason there was a delay in the plane of the president of Malawi, remember before the president came, there was an advanced team that came from Malawi, but it came through the OR Tambo. So what they tried to do is to save by going through the OR. They wanted that same advanced team to board in the Waterkloof Air Base, which was denied because in terms of the law, they could not exit in a different port of entry. We had to make sure that they go back to the port of entry which they came through, and they were then double-checked and processed through that channel. So there was never any doubt of the president of Malawi to a point of doing all those things. We did say to them they cannot be boarded there, and they did comply, and they went to the OR to be boarded from where they had come through. So there was never a question of doubting them. But yes, at the OR Tambo, even that advanced team, it was processed, and we are certain that the team that came in is exactly the team that came through. And the normal immigration checkings were done, which is normally done with anybody who's exiting or coming in.
Quick and final question before I go to my foreign editor, Sophie Mkwena. Should it be found that any official of the Malawian government was complicit in Shepherd Bushiri and his wife, or anybody else that he fled the country with, in getting them there, would it cause a diplomatic incident?
Well, we will deal with that, but at this point, I'm not even able to comment on something that has not happened. But I guess the international relations will know what to do when there has been a violation of the diplomatic relations. But at this point, we are not even there.
All right. Thank you very much. GCIS Director General Phumla Williams. We're joined now by SABC foreign editor Sophie Mkwena, who's been listening into that conversation. Sophie, does it sound like that's the normal order of things? What we've just spoken about, how the Malawian president came here, this back and forth of having his plane fly to OR Tambo, the individual security checks within and outside of the plane.
Well, I think it's quite strange because what they could have done was to ensure that those who were supposed to return back to Malawi and were not in the same plane when the plane arrived on Thursday, they are part of the itinerary and a group of people so that they can be able to go to Waterkloof and board a plane and leave. I mean, all the logistics, you know, to have a head of state moving from Waterkloof to OR Tambo, it's such a lot of work because heads of state are not ordinary citizens. Therefore, their movements entails a lot of logistics unless they started at OR and then moved to Waterkloof. Of course, then it doesn't make any difference because if they pick up these officials at OR, they are going to land at Waterkloof. So these officials will still be in Waterkloof. And Waterkloof has got facilities to deal with immigration issues, not only meant for your heads of state or ministers, but anyone who's part of the entourage, who has been declared as part of the entourage, but also as part of the itinerary, even private citizens. And therefore, but that's what GCIS is saying. And it is very, very difficult. And also the problem here, when he left Malawi, there was a clear instruction that people shouldn't go to the airport. You know, our neighboring countries and countries in Africa, when a head of state is leaving, you have lots of people lining up the roads and waiting at the airport to see him leave. And when he comes back, the same ceremonial activities around receiving him back. But there was a clear indication in this instant when he was coming to South Africa that in Malawi people shouldn't go to airport. When he came back, they shouldn't do the same. And even the security establishment in Malawi are raising reservations in terms of the arrival of the president that side. But of course, here is South Africa saying, indeed, it was just a coincidence that those issues or that process happened. And I spoke earlier on with someone very close to Bushiri, who told me that Bushiri was in the country on Wednesday and Thursday. In fact, he had meetings lined up. And he made a call to someone at around 14:22, that is the afternoon. Bushiri yesterday said he left South Africa on Wednesday. And therefore, I mean, even if you were to find a closest border, if you leave midnight on Wednesday, clearly you will arrive in the morning on Thursday. You can't be in Malawi on Friday or Saturday morning. If you are driving, if you've left South Africa on Friday, it's impossible. It's impossible.
So I want to talk about the conversation we both had with the Information Minister of Malawi yesterday. He was very clear on the fact that they would have to undertake their own investigation, be comfortable with the reasons and the means which Bushiri used to arrive in Malawi before they make a decision on how to proceed. South Africa has started these extradition proceedings. Given what Ms. Williams has said, how difficult or easy will that conversation be to get cooperation?
Let's start here in the country. The first thing, yesterday, the criminal cluster worked very hard to get information that would include the means of transport, whether it was air, rail or road, to ensure that they know exactly which port of entry or which immigration area was used and officials who were there at that time. From there, this information that they've gathered yesterday and today, they must present this in court. And I suspect they will do that tomorrow to get a warrant of arrest, because you can't move on the extradition when you don't have a warrant of arrest. Therefore, they must get a warrant of arrest. The courts in South Africa must then declare Bushiri an official fugitive and the wife. And then the process of extradition can start, because then you'll send these papers to say, yes, our courts have declared this guy a fugitive. Secondly, there's a warrant of arrest. He's a wanted man. And then if you go through the route of a SADC protocol, then you'll also involve the international relations, because they have officials in Malawi and also in South Africa, DERCO, to kickstart that process, because it's almost like your diplomatic processes, because this protocol was signed in October 2002 when our leaders in the region realized that there was an increase in terms of transnational crime, but also national crime, and they were saying, let's work together and deal with this issue. Therefore, I expect tomorrow or Tuesday or this week to hear NPA and the Hawks, these two units who worked very hard to ensure that they have this case. But unfortunately, the justice system failed the Hawks and the NPA, because they argued the case very strong that this guy is capable of leaving the country because of all the issues around him, on issues of citizenship, on issues of having lots of passports and all that. But the court decided, or the judge decided, to grant him bail. And when that was done also, you look at the conditions, they are not so strong. You can't say a person who's capable of fleeing the country, and Home Affairs, the Hawks, NPA, South African Police Service, all have testified that this person is capable of leaving the country. You don't say he must report or they must report at the nearest police station only Monday and Friday. I mean, between Tuesday and Friday, what's going to happen? You're leaving a room for a person to maneuver. I also have information that he was investigating whether his diplomatic passport can give him a leeway to evoke the privileges that he has as a diplomat, because I'm told in Malawi, the head of state is able to give particularly the religious leaders diplomatic passport. But this diplomatic passport that he has, it was issued by the then president of Malawi, Mutharika. Now you have a new president.
I want to talk about that issue of diplomatic relations, which I asked Ms. Williams about, that should it be found that any role was played by an official member of the Malawi government, how that will play out, especially what you mentioned, if this issue of him having a diplomatic status has come up a number of times, that if that was breached, how will this impact on this? And South Africa coming out, making such a huge effort to protect Malawi's reputation on these speculations?
Well, of course, it will cause a damage to both South Africa and Malawi, because we are told that indeed there was no help from the government of Malawi. Leave the president of Malawi and the jet and all that. But the question is, how did he cross the border? What kind of documents did he present? Okay, if he didn't use your formal border post and gates and immigration, he has used illegal means, perhaps crossing somewhere where there's a way to cross. We know when you look at the border post, when you go to Zimbabwe, that fence. But then on arrival in Malawi, what kind of documents did he present to Malawi's immigration office? Because even though you are returning back to your country, you still have to present documents. We travel a lot to different parts of the continent and the world. When we come back here at OR Tambo, we do present our documents. Even though people know us, they can even identify us, but they are doing their job as immigration office to ensure that indeed this is Sophie Mkwena coming back. Even if a official can be able to identify me, but they still do that and stamp your passport. Therefore, he also broke the law in terms of how he left the country, in terms of documents, but also arriving in his country. Therefore, Malawi must arrest him because he entered Malawi almost illegally. And that is the easiest way to deal with this matter, and then hand him over, because they are compelled by the SADC protocol to cooperate with South Africa. And if they don't, then it will raise more suspicion or suspicions that something was behind the whole saga, because we know that a week ago, when President of Malawi was meeting some communities and traditional leaders, they were forcing him to intervene in this matter. And therefore, these are some of the dots that you have to connect. I'm not saying that the president was involved. I'm just saying it raises more questions. But I think for us as the media, tomorrow, our eyes must be on the Pretoria High Court or the Department of Justice, NPA, and the Hawks to see whether they will go to court, get the warrant of arrest, and then present papers and argument based on the court ruling and issuing of warrant of arrest and formally declaring Bushiri a fugitive and the partner.
And the story continues to be under our radar here at SABC News. That's our foreign editor, Sophie Mkwena. And on to our question of the day. We've been asking you which story stood out for you this week. I know this has been one of them. We're getting quite a lot of response from our viewers. Let's go straight to that. Pule Mahate saying, good evening, Tsipi. So how can one forget the Ace Mahashule court case and the Shepherd Bushiri's sudden escape from Zanzibar to Malawi? These two gentlemen have everything in common. I'm not surprised that their stories have made headlines. So says Pule. So that's what your opinion is. Pule Theo saying that the walk by CUT welcome campus students from